I've always wanted to be a physician scientist, and I've always thought that my dream was to make a difference in the treatment of a disease or to help patients. We took 2,000 existing drugs, tested them in cells to see which one would hit a signaling pathway that's important in the skin cancer that I study, basal cell carcinoma. So we identified a couple of new drugs, tested this in mice, and actually found oral itraconazole, which is an antifungal drug. This could be useful for treatment or prevention of the most common cancer in the US, which is basal cell carcinoma, a type of skin cancer. And so we were able to do this fairly quickly.
So Scott and I started labs on the same day at the University of California, San Francisco at 2 different campuses. And we realized that we were working on the same problem, the problem of how cells die prematurely, especially when they're stressed from having to overwork and make too much of a particular protein, and how that process occurs and what we could do about it. We knew from our field, from our training as physicians, that this was going to be important for many, many diseases that did not have any cures.
We started with really a basic question is, how does a cell sense damage? And then how does it make a decision to either repair the damage or commit suicide? That's where we began as we started to understand that the flow of information in the cell that goes from the detection of damage to processing that damage and then ultimately committing suicide. We were able to find a place that we can intervene and we could stop that process from happening.
With all these results, you'd think, gosh, you're set, but that's not the case. People want to know, business partners, what's the market? How many people have it? How are you gonna get there? How are you gonna sell it? And while we spend 20 years in training, we don't have any experience in the business model and in the regulatory path to get a drug approved. So enter the Harrington Discovery Institute. It's a brain trust of experts in biotech, in pharmaceuticals, in venture capital, and it really felt like a partnership where somebody was really on your side that spent so much time learning about your disease, knowing about the patients that would be affected, and all of a sudden you're assigned a team of 5 to 7 people who have expertise and knowledge domains that you completely lack. The Innovation Support Center is the secret sauce. You know, these guys have seen the playbook many, many times. And so as a physician scientist, your knowledge is a mile deep, but their knowledge is a mile wide.
The Innovation Support Center is actually, it's almost like a project team in a large pharma company, because you have former vice presidents, senior executive directors from different companies with decades of experience that cover really all aspects of drug discovery and development. So my group at Merck and then at Schering-Plough, I had the opportunity to take about 20 compounds into development, and 11 of those, 11 or 12, got into clinical trials. So I did have the opportunity to succeed with projects and also fail with projects that didn't make it that far.
The chemistry expertise of the Innovation Support Center through Bill Greenlee in particular was very, very, very helpful. Bill right away just jumped on the project, flew out to San Francisco, met with us. We had scheduled monthly meetings. He would help us look at the molecule, decide how to potentially change it to make it better, make it more potent, more selective against our target. And we would then make those modifications, find out whether they worked or not, and then we would have those results for the next call.
What we had was a very general mechanism that came out of the science, and they helped us really tailor that towards particular diseases. Diseases all that today have no cures. Blindness from retinitis pigmentosa, from these death signals in the cells in the back of your eye and the retina, leading to premature blindness in children, diabetes, Lou Gehrig's disease.
I think what I brought to our interactions was this sort of experience of working for 35 years in the pharmaceutical industry and kind of troubleshooting their project and saying, what do we need to do right now? What can we put off? What is the drug molecule that we're looking for? What does it have to look like in order to be successful?
You might have an idea as an investigator, but biotech and traditional pharma looks at it and says, that's way too early. You don't know the dose. You don't know if it works well in different animal models. Convince me that this is an important problem and one where there's a market for. And so with the infusion of the Harrington Discovery Institute, now you take the ideas and the discoveries and make them potential medicines where biotech or pharmaceuticals will say, guess what, you checked all the boxes. I know this is important. I know how much money one can make. I know how many patients are there, and I know the regulatory path.
Through the support of the Harrington Discovery Institute, the Innovation Support Center, we were able to move our drug far enough along, show proof of concept in animal models that it will prevent this blinding disease. And we then became attractive at that point for investment through the for-profit arm called Biomotive. And they have invested in this technology and started a company called Opticera that is focused on developing drugs to prevent diseases of cell loss, diseases like retinitis pigmentosa and Lou Gehrig's disease, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease.
Maybe we could have gotten there ourselves, over times, but this was a catalyst, one-stop shop really for all of these processes, and it really, may have shaved a lot of years off of the whole development process.
I think the Harrington Discovery Institute is going to ignite the next biomedical revolution. Much of our work in the U.S. and funding has been focused on discovery. HDI will now focus and launch a new wave of translation that has never been there. There's been never this kind of funding and expertise, and I think they are changing the world, and the epicenter for this new wave and this new revolution is going to come out of Cleveland.